Hey, I'm Vaziri, and this is the Ravine Melee. This battle allowed basically everything under the SCA sun, so we have swords, shields, polearms, there's thrown weapons, there's archery. This battle was run twice with the teams switching sides. I did archery for the first round and polearm for the second round. Unfortunately, we lost most of the footage from the second round, but you'll see how that happened later in the video. I put some timestamps in the description if you want to skip ahead. The scenario for this battle is point-based with unlimited resurrections. There are 3 flags running down the center at the lowest point of the ravine, and there are res points along the top at the highest point on the hills. If you watched 2 videos ago, you'll notice that this ravine is the same place that the archery-only battle was fought, but now we've rotated the battlefield 90 degrees. In the archery-only battle, it was like a hot dog bun where each team was on one tip of the hot dog, one end or the other. Now, we're like on the 2 buns. One team is on one hill, one team is on the other hill. The first few minutes of this battle, I'm taking a long time to figure out where I should be standing, and I think there are 3 reasons for that. First, we had to change plans at the last minute. Originally, I was going to stick with the Meridian Army, and I was going to provide suppressing fire, try to shoot their generals on the enemy team, and keep their chain of command from effectively leading their side of the melee. When we arrived, it turns out that we had to stand as archers in the last 1/3 of the field, and the Meridian Army was stationed the first 1/3 of the field. So this crossbowman in red to my left is about as far left as I'm allowed to go and still shoot my weapon. You'll see here that as I'm moving around, I lose track of where I am. I end up firing an arrow when I'm like 5 or 6 feet to the left of the furthest extent. The second reason that I think it's important to take my time, I only have 35 arrows, so I'm going to certainly run out of arrows no matter what I do, and making them count is my first priority. And then third, because crossbows have more range than bows, I need to find a place where I'm in cover and I'm shooting at priority targets. After that one shot, I realized I'm too far out, and I moved back to be basically exactly on the line. You can see in front of me a crossbowman in blue and green, and they're also on the line. Here a marshal is just correcting me a few inches back into the area. Unfortunately, the camera that's normally mounted to my helmet and gives us those nice first-person views where I can zoom in on the arrow's path died just before this event. So I'm going to do our best with this third-person view. Appreciate your patience for getting that repaired. You see the crossbowman in blue and green just acknowledged a shot and walked past me dead, and they're going to come back in just 15 seconds. Because the archers are standing so far back and the res point is not that far away, it's quite a short walk from where we're standing. I didn't realize how consequential the short res time was, but later in the battle I totally reversed my strategy. Instead of trying to be safe and in cover, I just use my stamina as a resource, and if I die, I run back. In hindsight, I've been told the next thing that I do in this video is kind of controversial. So there's a rule. If your bow or your crossbow gets hit by an enemy projectile, you need to have it re-inspected before you continue to use it. And because all the marshals will be busy during the fight, this generally means that people will have backup weapons. From this range, I'm lucky if I hit the person at all. This time, I hit them directly in the crossbow. I gloated at the time because I thought of it as something lucky, like a bullseye. I've caused them to need to walk off the field, grab their backup crossbow, and come back, which is probably 3 or 4 times as far as the res point. And I thought it would be a minor inconvenience because we inspect things out of an abundance of caution. I doubt that their solid wood and steel crossbow is really going to be hurt by my body-safe arrow. Having some more time to think about it and less adrenaline, that might have been their only crossbow. They could be new, they don't know anybody to borrow a new one from. It might have hit it at just the wrong moment and caused that crossbow to be unusable in the future. And all of those outcomes would be incredibly rude to celebrate. So I want to apologize to whoever that was. Whoever you are, I hope you enjoy this instant karma as friendly fire from a crossbow behind me hits my bow and causes it to unrecurve itself such that I have to leave the field and get back up. The nice part about a 360 camera is that we can see that again from the backwards view. And again in slow motion where we see the bolt strikes my bow in its upper limb, and actually the APD hits the string, and the combination of those things caused the string to move around the side and the bow to unrecurve itself, and it thankfully wasn't damaged. Because this bow is made of fiberglass, it's actually much more sturdy in twisting than a normal wooden bow would be, but wooden or horn bows are extremely vulnerable to being broken by having their limbs twisted. And so the same exact thing on a more traditional bow might have been the end of that bow. Would love to hear your thoughts about the ethics of causing equipment to be re-inspected, if you should try to avoid that, if it's just part of the game. Skipping ahead a bunch here, there were a lot of holds in the last few minutes and nothing really worth highlighting. Here's the first time I capture a nice exchange. I'm aiming at a crossbowman quite far away and manage to hit. And as I am looking down to knock my next arrow, their companion gets me in a very impressive shot because I'm standing sideways and I'm right next to a bush and they still just get me. So that's my first death 16 and a half minutes into the battle. There's another hold immediately and I'm going to skip forward a bunch. Eventually I get so low on arrows, I kind of realize I need a plan which involves not shooting the arrows. So I'm thinking about it, and I go to the far right side where I'll be the most visible. So I'll skip past this hold, and I realize at this point, if I aim and I do everything right and I shoot and I kill an archer, they are gone for like 15 seconds while they res. But if I just stand somewhere and get somebody to aim at me and miss, they're gone for like 7 seconds while they reload and they acquire a new target. So it's basically half as good just to get somebody to shoot at you and miss. So I have this stupid idea that I think wraps all the way back around to being a good idea, that I'll stand in the worst, most obvious spot and I'll hold my bow up and I won't even shoot the arrows most of the time. And I'll just get the whole enemy team to aim at me. And in that way, I'll be eliminating more projectiles than I would trying to be offensive. So as this plan solidifies in my mind, you'll see I start strafing more aggressively left and right, and I start holding my bow up and not firing, but instead looking at the enemy archers. My goal is that I'll just move randomly until I notice somebody who's locked onto me, and then I'm going to wait to see that they've really lined up. And at that moment, I need to move aggressively in tempo with the way they're aiming so that they in specific miss. It's really hard. Let's switch to highlight mode and see if we can't get better than one dodge per one death. I can't say for certain who was aiming at me, but I'll start calling out anything that was close and how it missed. High and left. Short and left. High and right. My shot is expertly dodged and I wave that it's no good even if it clipped their guard. Very nice dodge by the crossbowman on my left. Just a hair to the left. High and right. High and right. Hits my gauntlet, which is not a legal target area. Misses right due to my dodge. Misses high and right. Misses high and right. Either misses me short or the archer in front of me long. I realize I'm forgetting to actually hold my bow up as if I'm aiming, and I do that to try to attract more attention, and I get what I asked for. I'm getting into kind of a groove now and cycling my vision between the 4 clumps of archers, back left, back middle, back right, and front in the line. And I'm just looking in the wrong spot when I get shot at. I don't dodge, and I get hit right in the face. But since I improved in dodging, it took 13 arrows to kill me once, and those are 13 arrows that won't come back for the next round. I'm going to fast forward past a long hold when I'm given a present by the enemy team.
Thank you.
I'm back and it misses just to my right. Direct hit to my shoulder, but I'm so far back that I'm resurrected within 20 seconds, and I'm going to skip past a hold. Misses left. Misses right. Misses right. Misses short and left. Misses right and low. Is being a human pincushion really a good strategy? I don't know, but it's actually extremely fun when you get in that flow state of dodging. That being said, I think that this highlights a scenario design improvement. The amount of walking that's appropriate for the melee fighters to res is too short for archers who are already standing far behind them. I would be happy with archery needing a further away res point or only being released every 60 seconds or something that made your life one of your most valuable resources and therefore made the amount of money that you spend on bolts less of a deciding factor. I'd like to think on the subject a bit more as I become more experienced and make a video about how I would design an archery scenario, but my gut feeling is that dying should be at least 10 times worse than just missing your target and having to reload and aim and fire again. And that would both make archery more approachable from the amount of arrows you need to buy and make the cleanup much less of a hassle because we just would not shoot so many arrows when two teams of archers are suppressing each other in a pretty even fight. It seems like this hold's about to end, and I want to make sure I'm drawing fire and taking a lot of bolts because everybody's going to shoot at once lay on is called. So I make eye contact and I taunt the enemy archers and it blows up in my face in spectacular fashion.
You just lost 2 arrows.
That's on video!
It turns out that was the last hole, that's the end of the round, and it seems like Trimaris/Meridier's side wins the first round. Now you can see how that instant karma from when my bow was struck by friendly fire comes back and bites me. I've got a lot to think about when I am suiting up, and I had to switch sides of the field. I had to get all of my armor on and off. I had to get all of my archery equipment strung and unstrung. I have to get all my camera equipment turned off, recharged, turned on. And in that process, because I now have to deal with getting my bow reauthorized, it throws me off. I forget to turn my camera off, and I don't realize, but I waste a bunch of the battery life, and therefore the battery runs out 2 minutes into the final round when I'm using a polearm. I have so little footage of the second round that I'll start my closing statements now. Meridier's held our flag the entire time the second round, and therefore most of the match, most of the flags were held by the Trimaris side, so we won this battle. As I charge in, I make one attack on a spearman who's not looking at me, and somehow still manage to miss because I'm new with a polearm. He asks if I was being polite. I say no, meaning, I actually just missed, and so he stays alive. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon in order to get the Mother of All Battles video, which is coming next. If you're interested in trying SCA combat, or really any part of pre-17th century life, you can learn more at welcome.sca.org. There you'll find information about all things SCA, including which kingdom operates in your local area. If you're specifically interested to do what you saw in this video, you can check out some unofficial Facebook groups for melee combat or combat archery. I hope to see you at an event someday, and thank you for watching.